So remember when I said last week we were going to mess with the Mazda? Kind of changed my mind. I am not quite ready to make the Mazda not drivable yet. I've been enjoying the Mazda. So I'm kind of been pushing that off until basically it gets uncomfortable cold outside. Like it's cold tonight, but we're waiting on the Mazda. We're going to focus on the Ranger again. I don't know if you can see it in the shot, but the crown has been being worked on. I had to wait for some parts to show up for that. But today and tomorrow, which it's already like 10 o'clock today, we're going to try and make some more progress on this guy and see how close we can get it to eventually going up and down. If you haven't been here before, my name is Crawford. This is Virginia's Lowriders. We build stuff. There's a whole lot of videos on the Mazda build. Tons of videos going over everything with the bagging and the body dropping. This truck is a different route. This is going to be more of like a traditional lowrider, hopper, dancer mixture of mini trucking and lowriding. And we need to get that closer to that goal. Last week we left off, we got this thing all pressure washed and looking good. We made a transmission cross member. We got it to where the battery isn't sketchy. And I got a whole lot of parts for this in between when we stopped recording last week and today. Actually, just got another box in a couple hours ago. Basically, everything creature comfort-wise underneath the hood of this truck, it's probably going to have to go. I'm going to take it all off. I'm going to save it. And maybe we can modify it and make it fit later on. And what I'm talking about mainly is the AC. The AC on this thing is very bulky and it takes up a lot of unnecessary room. And that room we need for cylinders and lines and things like that. We're going to try to take off the front end, new headlights, which are like very involved. It's big bucket things. We're going to clean up the engine bay tonight. I think that's the plan, or at least we're going to start that tonight. It's already pretty cold. But if you've never been here before, do all the normal YouTube-y things with the likes and the subscribes. Go back and check out all the other videos. And I appreciate y'all watching. Let's just jump into it so I don't ramble and waste more time like I normally do. I got a little piece of metal on my hand. So whenever I initially said I was going to make this into a hopper, I think a lot of people misunderstood what I meant. Like, there's these misconceptions about most things that are hoppers where they're just purpose built only for that and that's all they're good for, and they kind of just beat themselves apart. Not saying that this truck isn't going to beat itself apart, but I still want to be able to drive it. Basically, this is going to be a mixture of what people would refer to as a lay and play and a hopper. I want to be able to have fun with it. I don't want this thing to be standing on the rear bumper 6 feet in the air or anything like that. Whoa, getting a little. If it gets a foot or two off the ground, I'd be happy. Like, I don't expect a whole lot out of it. As you can see, it still sounds like a race car because there's no exhaust on it. And that's what we're trying to work towards actually between today and tomorrow, is getting it closer to where I can do the exhaust, because it is obnoxious and dumps underneath the truck. I'm not sure where we should start. I have a lot of stuff that needs to be done to this just to make it better to drive and not a death trap. Like, for instance, the window regulators have to be done. The door seals have to be done. But we're going to do things that don't need to be done right away, because that's usually how all of these projects go. So there's a couple things going on here. This is going to have hydraulics on it, and in order to do hydraulics, there needs to be a cylinder on top of the coil spring. On top of the coil spring means the cylinder needs to be in this region somewhere on both sides. And as you can see, there is no room at all over here. So we need to remove all of these lines and, again, creature comforts. Probably going to take the cruise control off. Again, it's not needed for what we're trying to do here. I'm going to take this coolant jug off. We're going to take off the lines that are supposed to be rubber and are now hard plastic. We have a whole lot of cleaning up to do. My buddy Jared gave me a set of headers that fit this truck. He said they're manufactured wrong. One of the flanges is welded on upside down. We're going to see if we can make that work, because the exhaust needs to be done anyway because it's all rotted. And I really don't want to put factory stuff back on it if I can help it. In that box, I have a complete 2.5-inch stainless steel tubing kit. Last week I showed y'all I have a knockoff MagnaFlow stainless steel muffler. We're just trying to make some stuff work. I have a ton of parts for this. Like 2 whole boxes of things that need to go on this truck. This is full, those are full, those go on here. And there's little boxes that came in today, that's full. Tons of stuff. But we're going to try to start off with just removing stuff. Trying to make some room in here. I'm going to save all of it. It's probably not going to end up back on the truck, to be honest. But we'll save it, and if I get a hair up my butt later on, maybe I'll... No. It'll live in a box. It'll probably end up at Jared's house. He's a Ranger guy. He said he's never had one of these with AC, or I think. So, it'll probably end up at his house. So, let's just get into trying to get something of this taken apart. I'm going to try my best to not harm any of these things so they are usable later on, because I know this stuff's getting hard to find. Hopefully it's empty. Yep, nothing. So if you were here for the Mazda, y'all would understand that I prefer a shaved engine bay, no wires, nothing exposed. You look in there and it just looks like an engine that probably shouldn't run because there's nothing attached to it. Again, I'll add some pictures on the screen just in case you haven't been here. I'm gonna try to resist, as much as it hurts my brain to not go full in and do that on here. I'm gonna try and hold back and keep it like a conservative cleanup and retain things that are supposed to be underneath the hood. But the AC doesn't work, and it's in the way. We've already discussed this, so don't get upset with me because I'm removing it. I understand it's a creature comfort thing. I have a lot of old junk, and I really don't care about AC, so that part really doesn't matter to me anyway. When it comes to the AC stuff, that is the reason that I have my Crown or I have my Lincoln. Those are comfortable cars. I actually would like to do one of those all-electric AC units on the Mazda and try to hide it. So let me know if y'all want to see me get into that. It's kind of pricey, but I think it'd be a cool experiment if I could get all of that to work and mount it underneath the truck somehow to where you don't see any of it. That way when you pop the hood, it just looks like a carbureted 4-cylinder sitting in a hull. I think that'd be a cool addition to that truck, and something. I haven't seen any videos of it yet. The reviews aren't that great, but I'm willing to give it a shot if I have enough people say, yeah, you should do that, because I've already had multiple friends and people say that would be pretty cool. If you ever decide I want to clean up my engine bay and I want to gut all this stuff and try to make my engine bay look cleaner, one thing I do recommend, make sure you label everything you take off and get vacuum line caps. Very, very important on almost everything. This thing has a ton of vacuum lines that I'm going to have to cap off because I'm removing things that are powered by vacuum. That cruise control vacuum pod thing has 3 lines coming off of it, and off of those 3 lines there's a lot of things that split off from there. So that's pretty involved when it comes to that. And be careful with this stuff, especially if it's old junk like this thing. They're very brittle and things break. They tend to break a lot. If we get through this without something breaking, I'd be very surprised. When I come into these things, I always try to be prepared. And I got new hoses, like I have new radiator hoses and vacuum line and all kinds of stuff waiting, because it's bound to happen. It's almost unpreventable when it comes to things like this. I'm sure this thing already has vacuum leaks just by the way that it idles. It kind of wanders. I don't know if it's just the IAC being dirty, but there's a pretty good chance that it's already got some leaks. And then once all of this is off, I'm going to hose everything down with brake clean while it runs and see if I can find some leaks. One of the things that absolutely needs to be done before pretty much anything is the valve cover gaskets, because they are just puking oil. All of this stuff is absolutely filthy. If you're trying to tackle this, every so often, try to start the vehicle. Because you never know if you might have unplugged something you shouldn't have unplugged. Alright, that's where we're at so far. Of course the intake's going to go back on. I just needed to take a lot of stuff out from underneath the intake. And this is the pile so far. I'm not going to run a washer reservoir, because it doesn't matter. I'm going to do a small, slim coolant tank. The air filter's getting replaced, but everything else is unused. I think tomorrow we're going to take the grill out, headlight bezels out, replace the headlights. I would like to scuff this and paint in behind there, because I don't really care for the white behind the grill. There's some rust and stuff on the core support. I had to hit with a wire wheel, clean all that up. That's not bad. It's getting kind of late to be out here starting and stopping this thing because it's so obnoxiously loud. So I'm going to call it quits for the night and pick up this in the morning. And then we should try and fabricate something. I don't know what we're going to fabricate, but we should try and fabricate something tomorrow. You know, it's just that wonderful time of year where it's 38 degrees when you wake up, and by the time midday comes by, it's 78 degrees, and then a few more hours go by and you have to turn the heat back on in the house. So like I said yesterday, there are some important things we should do, like having the ability to roll the windows up and down since there's no exhaust and it just comes in the truck. But I feel like making something. So let's make something. Kind of thinking, just to get it out of my system, pretty straightforward thing to make because it needs to be done. I think we could make a stronger battery box that actually holds the battery in place, not this. Since this thing's gonna be hopping and jumping and all over the place, I'm thinking a box that is more stout that the battery can't fall out of. I think that would probably be the good way to go. I can't tell right off the bat, but it kind of looks like this thing is partially welded to the truck. Either just it's really close and everything just happened to rust to each other. That is extremely rusty. Not all batteries are made the same. Just because you have a Group 24 doesn't mean that the base of the Group 24 is going to be the same throughout all of the brands. So keep that in mind when you're building these boxes. Do not make the box super tight to the battery, because another battery that's not wherever Valuecraft is from, like an Interstate, could have a foot on it that's an eighth of an inch or a quarter of an inch bigger. You could have a bigger foot on either side. So just give yourself a little bit of wiggle room. The battery is exactly 10. We'll probably add a half an inch to that. So 10 and a half. Got 6 and a quarter. We'll go all the way to 6 and 3/4 and go from there. I'm going to add some pictures to the screen of other styles of battery boxes that I've made. These are what I would consider like a very robust and very strong mount. I've done a lot of sheet metal ones over the years. The Mazda has a sheet metal one. The Caprice has a sheet metal one. Numerous cars that I've built have sheet metal ones. I just don't think that sheet metal is what we need on this project. Please excuse the mess, because I am in a constant battle with trying to clean my garage, and it just never seems to be finished. Well, the box is made. It looks pretty good. It doesn't look like angle iron. Nice rounded edges. What I'll usually do when I'm making these is leave a gap between the two edges and then fill that with weld and give me something to grind down. If you butt it completely tight, weld it, then grind it, then you have nothing there after the fact. With this way, there's still plenty of weld. I don't think I'll be welding this to the truck because I have a big gap, so I'm going to put, I think, another angle to here and maybe a angle going down on that side and bolt it into the place. Yeah, that's what we're going with. Now we have a mounting bracket for the sidewall, mounting bracket for this thing. This fits in there pretty good. Get it sort of kind of squared up. I'm going to take my Sharpie, mark across the bottom of this, trim that to where it's the same size as that, and it looks a little nicer and a little bit more finished. Pop 2 holes in here, 2 holes in there, and then this thing can be mounted up. This is ridiculous. This thing probably weighs as much as all that stuff I took off last night. We are looking pretty good. This thing is very stout. I gotta take the inner fender out to get those other bolts in there, but as of right now, it's looking pretty good. We got a little bit of wiggle room on the battery. I'm gonna order the same battery tie down that I have in the Mazda, but it's pretty good progress. We're gonna try and slap some headlights in here real quick. Try and get some more done. I'm already running out of time. It's already like 6 o'clock, and I usually try to get done in the garage by 7. So we need to hurry up. It comes out of there really easily. Just like the outside of the truck, it's got 34 years of built-up nastiness that I would rather not continue to work around. Make sure we don't get anything in there. That wouldn't be good. So, I don't normally recommend washing under an engine bay because there's a lot of electronics, especially on something that's from the 80s. It has terrible waterproofing when it comes to electronics. But there's a lot of grime in this thing, and we need to get cleaned up because we're going to continue to work in here. Every time I touch it, I get filthy from it leaking for the last 34 years. We got to at least get some of it off. I got a cheap Harbor Freight spray bottle thing, a cheap dustpan broom thing from the dollar store, and some awesome, like we used last week. And I'm going to attempt to not spray the engine and just spray the grime, but hopefully it still starts after today. If it doesn't fire back up tonight, we're probably going to call it early, but hopefully it does, and we can drive it back up there and throw the headlights in. But if you do this and you're unsure of the engine like I am, probably not the best idea to spray the engine down, but we can try to get the grime off everything else. And there's a lot of it. Try to avoid spraying inside of any connectors, which when we rinse this off and spray it with the hose is next to impossible. Just do your best. I just hate to throw those brand new housings on top of all this nasty grime. You see that stuff actually falling off of there. It's pretty bad. I don't know if I'm going to get to the point of painting the core sport like I thought I was going to today, but at least we can get it cleaned up and throw the headlights back in it, or the new headlights in it. I know that's not the intended purpose for these brushes, but they are a very soft brush with long bristles and they can get into everywhere. Just makes it easier on you. Much better. I didn't like that part of the paint, but it's looking pretty good. A lot better than it was. Now, hopefully I don't get as grimy every time I'm doing something. We gotta try and fix some oil leaks this week. Alright, let's see if your fires up or not. Moment of truth. Okay, we'll take it. Throw these headlights in there real quick. With the light in here, huge difference. Didn't realize how grimy this thing actually was. It's pretty bad. Hopefully these headlights fit. There's no telling sometimes with Chinese internet stuff. Sorry, I misspoke. These are made in Taiwan. I don't know if that makes it any better. Oh, these even came with bulbs. That's nice. I could have polished the headlights. I've polished a whole lot of headlights in my life. But I didn't think it was quite worth it, considering I caught them on like a, whatever Rock Auto calls it, a closeout deal. I think I paid less than 50 bucks for both headlights, and that's a huge difference. So, old, nasty griminess. It cleans up the truck so much. Like, huge difference. Now these I will polish. Those are still OEM, but these are so rough, and you can tell somebody's been spraying something on them because they're almost gummy. I have officially ran out of time again, so I think we're gonna call it a night. I'll try and get this edited and hopefully posted before midnight tonight. I think what I'd like to try to do on every video, as far as the Ranger is, because I have so many parts that are like normal car parts in the beginning of this build, we're going to attempt to do juggling a little bit. We're going to do some maintenance-y repairs and getting the truck looking good and safe, because those were so crappy. This thing was terrible to drive at night. We're going to try and get some safety things done, like I got brakes and a ton of other stuff, and then we'll at least try and fabricate one thing. That's the goal. Safety, maintenance-y things, and a little bit of fabrication. I need to order some more steel. The more I've been thinking about it, I would like for this thing to do a standing big 3-wheel. I want, like, I'll put a picture of my Grand Marquis on the screen. I want something at least that high, if not higher. And I think the only way that I can do that is by building a 3-link. So I think that we're going to go 3-link on this. I don't think that the leaf springs have enough flex in it to get any more than maybe the tire a foot off the ground in a 3-wheel, and I'd like more out of it. I think it'd be a cool experiment. We can get a higher lift in the rear without as much stress on things, because it's not pulling from multiple points of the frame. It's just a single point of the bars being attached to the front of the frame. I think 3-link all around is going to work out better for what I want this truck to be able to do. So I'm going to try to order a stick of material to build a 3-link and a bunch of stuff to go along with that, maybe this week. I think we need to juggle, though. I think I got it out of my system, got some Ranger stuff out of the way. I think we need to work on the Mazda for sure. So let me know what y'all think. If I should just keep chipping away at the Ranger, maybe I'll do that. But I think it's kind of feeding into my A.d.d and bouncing around. If I get too straight away from that, it's a good chance that the Mazda is going to look the way that it does for a long time. So we might have to do some bouncing around. I'm rambling. Apologize for this not being a super exciting video, but we did get some fabrication done. We did get closer to the truck being cut up and hydraulics putting on it. This is just a lot of the things that go into it that I figured I should add, because a lot of people skip past this point. They'll just say, yeah, I took a bunch of stuff out of the engine bay. We need to show real life, like what has to go into this for this to work and for it to work properly. Very soon, once I get all of the materials together, there's going to be heavy fabrication, like videos that are just fabrication, because eventually we're going to run out of the stuff in the boxes. So make sure you subscribe, do all the normal YouTube things so you can follow this, build along, follow the Mazda, and all of the other things that are coming very soon. There's a new video every single Sunday, and I appreciate y'all watching, and I'll see you next Sunday. Figured I'd show one more shot before we left. It looks so much better. It really cleans up the truck. Just that little bit. Just a little bit of power washing and some cheap headlights. This thing is looking pretty good. Looks like a little tiny F-150 again.